Right, hello and welcome to this week's angling vlog. It is a proper wet, cold day on the bank. Arrived this morning and the river's up and it's got extra pace and a bit of colour. When I woke up this morning the rain was battering at my door and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do something that I don't do very often, and that is fish the feeder. So today is going to be a session on the feeder. It's going to be a short session vlog wise, because it looks like it's going to rain a lot of it. So yeah, short vlog today. It's going to be simple. Me mixing the ground bait, I look at the side table, and then the fish as I get them, and then the net at the end. So yeah, let's get on to the fishing. Right, so today we've had a lot of rain over the weekend, like I've just said. It's a Sunday morning and I'm going to give it a go on the feeder. The mixes I'm going to go with Silvernex River and Census Lake. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some ground bait. The first thing I'm going to do is put the fine mix through the middle to get rid of all the big bits. So there'll be a link at the top of the screen in a second to another video early on in the year when I used a similar mix in more detail as to how I did the mix. But really quickly today, just trying to get out all the big bits out of the mix because it's winter. I want to reduce the feed content. So the first job is to get a good amount of ground bait put through the middle to remove the big bits. Right, so what you've got there is the mix of ground bait with all the particles removed. So it's only a dry mix at the moment, but you've got a nice fine base to start with. And as you can see, it's a very light ground bait. Even though I'm fishing it in the feeder today, I want it to be a bit darker, so I have got molehill soil, and also by adding the molehill soil it gives me the option, if I want to go on the bolo later on, then I can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this mixed up, add some water to it and get it over damp, and then leave it while I set the rest of the gear up. Right, so I've just mixed that up now. Got it to a consistency where if I make a ball, you still get some left on your hands. That's kind of where you want to be before you're going to leave it for a bit. Slightly over wet, and when you come to it, it'll have dried out enough to put it through a middle again and to remove the lumps. So that just goes to one side now while I set the rest of the gear up. Right, set up for the day is my Drennan 12-foot Matchman feeder rod. Just a simple Shimano bait runner reel loaded with 6-pound line. At the business end is a running. What you have basically is a float stop from the pike fishing, and then you have a 30-gram feeder, and that runs on a running loop like that. And what that means is, if you're fishing for, say, bream, then you can loosen it. If you start to miss bites, the rig instantly, you can move the float stop closer to the bead, reducing the length of the loop, and you get that bolt effect. If you crack off, it's simple, it's loose, but it's got enough tension to get the bolt effect that you want. A Corbin quick change bead, which allows me to change the length of the hook length. I'm starting off with quite a short one, and it's down to a size 12 hook. Right, so back to the ground bait. It's been about 20-30 minutes. The test that I always do for the ground bait when it's ready is make it into a ball like that. As you can see, you've got a lot less ground bait left on your hands, and when you do that, it all completely comes off. That's just a test that I do to see whether it's ready or not. So the next stage with this is to pass it through a middle, because as you can see there, it's got all them lumps in it. We don't want them. So the next stage, I'm going to pass all this through a middle. So as you can see there, that's what it looks like before. Right, and as you can see there, that's the mix now. It's got no completely different animal altogether. All the lumps removed. but as you can see, it's quite a light mix. So what I did the other day, went out and got a load of molehill soil. So what I do is, you can get scientific about it and, you know, cup that out, say 20 cups of ground bait, 20 cups of molehill soil, but I do it by eye myself. So what I do is I just grab handfuls like that, which I riddle this when I get it. So when I harvest the molehills, I riddle it as I do it. So what this will do is it'll darken the mix, because you want a darker mix for silvers really on the bottom, something that the fish are happy to lie over. I do think the pike, being able to see them over a lighter bottom is a good theory. It's a theory and it sounds a sound one. So what this will do is it'll give me a ground bait that's a lot darker, and it'll also give me options, as you'll see in a sec. So just giving it a good thorough mix round. Right, and what you've got there now is a mix that's darker, twice as much mix, but one that works, and it's a good bait, versatile base, because what it means today with this base is I can block end the feeder with it quite easily, and I've got enough to last me all day just to keep blocking that feeder. But say out with my uncle today, say he starts getting a couple on the float, that mix then is versatile enough to ball up and introduce into the swim. You could also put that over your feeder line if you wanted, but to get a bit of bait on the bottom, and I might do that later on. But yeah, that is a fantastic, simple, cost effective, because the molehill soil is free, mix for fishing a river, and that's the mix that I'm going to use today on the feeder. So what I'm doing is flocking one end of the feeder with ground bait like that, in with some hemp, maggots, push them down, back into the ground bait, and you're squeezing it because it's about 12-13 foot deep here, really tightly, and then what you've got is a sandwich like that, double maggot on the hook, ready to go in. So initially feeding the swim, I'm going to be using quite a large cage feeder. What I'm going to be doing is plugging one end and piling it full. I say these are dead maggots and live ones from last week. I'm really packing that feeder full of bait, and what I'm going to be doing is leaving that, casting them in probably every 5 minutes, really quick casts, and what that's going to do is build up a really big bed of food on the bottom like that over a short space of time, because that will hold quite a bit of bait. So really quick cast to begin with, even if I've not had a bite, you know, 2 to 5 minutes, bring it in, cast again, and as the session goes on you can start leaving it longer. The first roach coming on the feeder, just simply block ending the feeder as I've shown in the previous clip, and keeping accurate to where you're feeding. And yeah, that roach has come on the third cast. Hopefully the weather will clear today and we'll be getting some better footage, But yeah, that's just an early fish coming on the feeder. So just into another one, another roach. And there we go, clonking roach coming on the feeder. Nailed it as soon as it hit the bottom. And that is a lovely roach. Got to be getting up towards the pound mark, that one. Fantastic fish to have on the feeder. Right, so now I've got the fish in the swim with the big feeder, moved over to a much smaller one, and yeah, that just offers that little parcel of food, tracks the fish in, centres them around the feeder, and then your bait's a bit further down. So yeah, after using that one for the first bit, you see it holds a lot more bait. Moved over to the smaller one now I've got a better bait down. And there's another one coming on the feeder. Let's say filming's really hard today because it is absolutely bucking it down, but feeder's not something that I normally do, but I must admit, getting a few bites today and enjoying it. And the tip didn't half go around that time. That's a chublet, a gob on it, and if they've moved in then they can eat, so put a bit of bait in. So fantastic bite on that tip. And there we go, lovely little billy. So just into the afternoon, the temperature's really dropped and the bites have gone off the boil a bit. And then this has just come out the blue, just kept casting accurately and feeding, which are the keys to feeder fishing. And this roach has just come. Right, and that's a fish to end the session on, a nice chub to end the session on. The temperature has really dropped in the last probably hour and a half, and the fishing has been a bit slow, so yeah, we're just going to call it there. Let's have a look at them final nets. Right, there's my uncle's net of fish, the clonking bream. Here's a nice fish, 13.5 pound, some nice chub in there, some nice roach and perch, nice mixed bag of fish, and a good day's fishing on tough conditions. Let's get these guys back. Right, so that's the final net. Some nice fish in there. I say on the feeder, didn't have many fish, but what I did have were quite big, probably up to a pound, some of them. Some perch, chub, nice skimmer, and some nice roach. And yeah, a hard day's fishing on the day when conditions weren't great. I'm gonna get these fish back. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.